Zeno's paradox. Everything has fallen away. There are no sounds, no colors, no flavors, no scents, nothing to hold on to. I'm completely, utterly alone. The world dissolves until nothing is left, and I realize I'm at home, in bed, and Gil is asleep beside me. Except for the sound of the heating system breathing hot air through the vents, the house is quiet. I lift my head and look around. A number glows in the dark. It's 4:10 a.m. The nightlight in the children's bathroom throws a faint glow onto the walls of the hallway and reaches into our bedroom through the open door. I'm enclosed in a room inside a house. Outside, across the country road that skirts our garden, the forest stands waiting to reclaim the land. The wall, so flimsy, a blow can puncture it, separates our bedroom from the children's room, where Dina and Mickey are asleep in their bunk beds. Sometimes I'm still surprised at how they appeared in my life. I nestle up to Gil. I want him to put his arm around me and reassure me I'm real. But when I press myself against his back, he grunts and moves away. Hot, he murmurs in his sleep. I chase him to the side of the bed and try to lock him in an embrace, but he remains elusive. The closer our bodies are together, the more sharply they seem to outline the space in between us, a space that can be halved and halved again and again, but I will never reach him. Gil's skin is warm and sweaty. He may have a fever. I worry the incompatibility of our sleeping rhythms is making him ill. He's naturally a morning person, up at dawn and ready to go to sleep after dinner. But every evening I trick him into staying up late to keep me company. I'm afraid the effort is draining all his energy. Last night, before he went to sleep, he complained of a headache, and I, immersed in a book and impatient with the interruption, told him to take an aspirin and said I'd join him when I finished my chapter. Of course I stayed up until I'd read the whole book, and when I finally went to bed at 1 a.m, I found Gil asleep with the lights still on. After all these years, he still trusts me when I say I'll be there soon. You have to get up now, says Gil. It's 7:15. Dina and Mickey will be late for school. I try to open my eyes, but my lids are glued together. Through my lashes, I see him standing beside the bed, looking down at me. As he comes into focus, I realize the person I used to know has been transformed into a middle-aged college professor. His face thickened and set in lines of worry, fatigue, and responsibility. I'll get up in 5 minutes, I say. I just need to finish my dream. I've used the same excuse every morning for years, and Gil has given up on arguing. He complains that trying to get me out of bed tires him for the rest of the day. If only I could split myself up so that I could keep on sleeping while my alter ego goes through the morning routines. In my mind, I make my alter ego get up, brush her teeth, comb her hair, get dressed, go to the kitchen to fix breakfast, make coffee, and just as I'm starting to feel pleased with her progress, Gil re-enters the room. Why can't you just get up? Why do you do this every morning? His voice rises in despair. I feel bad for the distress I'm causing, but my exhaustion is stronger than my sense of remorse. I close my eyes and burrow underneath the blanket. Tonight I'll be better. Tonight I won't keep him waiting. Tonight I will go to bed early. Just one more minute. It's not yet 20 past, I mumble. Gil threatens to just leave and let me sleep. He says he doesn't care if I get fired. This is the last time he'll try to wake me up. From now on, I'll have to take care of myself. But he has the same outburst every morning. And I know that his sense of responsibility is stronger than his frustration. I settle back under the blankets, knowing he'll return in a minute. He stomps out of the room and tells Dina and Mickey that they have to get dressed by themselves because Mama won't wake up. They mutter some kind of protest. They don't know what to put on because Mama hasn't laid out their clothes last night. Can I wear my princess dress? asks Dina. No, I want to shout. No, you can't go to school in a princess costume. I don't care, says Gil. Just get dressed. If I were a better mother, the sound of my children's voices would stir my maternal instincts and give my reluctant body the strength to get out of bed. If I were a better mother, I'd wake up long before my children stirred, just to stare lovingly at their slumbering faces and awaken them with kisses and songs. If I were a better mother, we'd be having breakfast together every morning, and I'd drop Dina off early at school so she'd have time to play outside with her friends until the bell rings. But I'm not a good mother. I've no idea what my children do in the morning. I don't even know what time they wake up. All I know is that when I finally come into the kitchen, they're usually dressed and eating breakfast. It's 7:30, Gil shouts. How nice it would be to lie here forever without anyone nagging me. How nice if the whole world just disappeared and I could sleep forever in this warm nest. What would happen to me if Gil gave up on me? Would I just sleep my life away? Would anything ever convince me to get up? Gil's angry footsteps are coming down the hallway. That's it. I've pushed him too far. I jump out of bed, take one big step to the dressing table, grab my hairbrush and position myself to make it look as if I've been standing there brushing my hair for at least 5 minutes. Gil knows my childish pretense, but as long as it gets me out of bed, he puts up with it. I inspect my closet in search of an outfit. Clothes tend to give me a sense of purpose. I'm no longer lost in dreams. I become a woman with a job, a style, and somewhere to go. But today, nothing captures me. I have too many clothes, and almost all of them are impractical or inappropriate. 1950s vintage dresses, ball gowns, a Chinese qipao, a Bedouin dress with gold and purple embroidery, and a bunch of hand-down blouses from my mother. I grab my burgundy corduroy pants and black sweater from the laundry pile and pick a pair of pearl earrings. It's 7:45 when I enter the kitchen. Finally, says Gil, who is spreading peanut butter on Dina's lunch sandwich. Every day he prepares the same lunch for her. A sandwich, raisins, and apple slices, which Dina doesn't touch because they're discolored by the time she unpacks them. Gil doesn't usually pick Dina up from school, so he doesn't know that most of her lunch ends up in the trash. If I made her lunch, I'd pack her different fruits every day: cashew nuts, cheese, dates, yogurt, a perfectly balanced diet. But of course, I'd have to get up in time. I brushed Dina's hair, my only remaining parental responsibility in the morning. Gil hasn't learned how to handle her long curly hair. If he did, he'd stop waking me up. Mickey climbs out of his chair. "I'm done," he declares. "No, you have to finish your yogurt," I object, and as the words leave my mouth, I have already given up. I can't make him eat if he doesn't want to. Every morning, 2 bowls of barely touched organic yogurt remain standing on the breakfast table. And every afternoon, when I come home after picking up the children, I feel sad when I see the bowls with spoiled yogurt and soggy cereal standing in the sink. Gil is obsessed with the news. To him, turning on the radio is as essential as switching on the kitchen lights. He knows of every disaster, war, and massacre reported in the international news. I try not to be too aware of tragedies that don't directly affect me. The radio broadcasts a report about a bombing in Baghdad. A disturbingly upbeat voice announces that the death toll so far is 38, with many more people injured. The voice explains that suicide bombers targeted a crowded shopping street. I turn off the radio. Gil is already standing by the door. He tells Dina and Mickey to put on their coats immediately because it's time to leave. I remind him I'll take Dina to school, that I'm not defaulting on my responsibility. "It's 5 to 8. She's going to be late if you don't leave right now," says Gil. "But I am leaving right now," I object. "I'm ready." I glance at the wall clock. It's only 7:53, but I figure I can start making myself a sandwich now. I'll just buy myself a coffee and a muffin in the coffee shop. If I'd gotten up 5 minutes earlier, I could have made my own breakfast and donated all the money I waste on coffee and muffins to a good cause. Mickey is ready to go. He's standing by the door in his winter jacket and snow boots. I realize I haven't even talked to him this morning and won't see him again until I pick him up from daycare. I try to hug him tight to make up for the separation, but he pulls away and reaches for the doorknob. Gil sighs. Yes, I know. Dina will be late again for school. "I'm sorry," I apologize to Gil. "I'm just so tired in the mornings." "Why don't you go to bed earlier?" he says. "I'll try," I promise, knowing I won't. I pucker my mouth for a kiss. Gil responds with a quick, lukewarm touching of his lips to mine. When we were first in love, almost 20 years ago, we couldn't have imagined ourselves like this. I remember us hiking in the mountains. Back then, Gil still humored me when I proposed hikes and other strenuous activities that didn't interest him. The wild almond trees were blossoming, and the ground was covered with fresh winter grass, and splashes of red poppies and pink cyclamen. Back then, the almond trees always blossomed. The grass and the flowers shone with an almost unbearable brilliance, and I even seem to remember violin music playing softly in the background. We had such an abundance of bliss, I couldn't imagine it to run out in a lifetime. We made love under the almond trees, on the living room floor, on a bench in the university's botanic garden, on the beach, with the midday sun blistering Gil's back, And in my rented room, while my crazy downstairs neighbor was screaming she'd set the house on fire. And each time I expected us to transcend the constraints of time, gravity, circumstance, and self, ultimately merging our souls into each other, like that perfect being described by Aristophanes in Symposium, the creature that results from the joining in perfect love of two people, and that, in Renaissance woodcuts, looks a bit like Humpty Dumpty. There was the promise that if we held on tight, we'd never again be lonely or afraid. But the longer we're together, the more ourselves get in the way of our togetherness. This is what love has to offer now. The coordinating of our schedules so that the kids will be picked up in time from daycare and school, the managing of household chores, the daily irritations with each other's failings, the keeping score of each other's offenses, Gil's irritability versus my irresponsibility, Gil's inability to keep the house clean versus my inability to wake up in the morning, Gil's incurring a $20 fine at the library versus my charring of the pumpkin soup, our constant gushing about the children's cuteness because we're too tired to think of anything more interesting to say to each other, and occasionally a rushed kiss or embrace to remind ourselves why we started on this project. Instead of transcending the limitations of ourselves and our bodies, we've learned to live with each other's flaws in an equilibrium of irritations. I grab Gil for another embrace, something more faithful to what we imagined ourselves to become when we made love under the almond blossoms. I pull him against me and tilt my head for a kiss. I know Gil doesn't like kissing, especially not when Dina and Mickey are waiting by the door, already late for school. But I want to signal to him that I miss him and that I still intend one day to catch up. Gil grudgingly kisses me back, and we have a little tug of war as he tries to withdraw while I try to glue my lips to his.